The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is the 1st of August, and I am Brian Brake for Breaking Down Security. As you can tell, it's a little lonely here on the Breaking Security group here. Miss Berlin is currently traveling with a bunch of folks to something in Vegas called DEF CON. I'm assuming it's a stand reference or something like that. Anyway, but I understand that she's on the interstate highway system here in the United States heading towards Vegas. And Mr. Betcher lost track of time, and he's in Austin. He said he'll be here as soon as he can. So I'm going to try to do my best to keep this a good podcast. Missing 2/3 of my crew, and I am very much lost without them sometimes, but I'm going to do my best. So I'd like to welcome Rebekah Skeete to the show this week. Hey, Rebekah.
Hello.
Hello. How are you doing?
Peach King Jelly Bean. I think it was interesting how you introduced yourself and then break on security. I'm like, I can't really say Rebekah Skeete on life because that has some inappropriate implications there. But yeah. Rebekah with a K. That's me.
Awesome. Yeah. So Rebekah is here to talk to us about some of the things that you can do while you're at DEF CON and Black Hat this year. Specifically, I believe DEF CON. There's going to be a ton of stuff going on. She will be there or be around there, but I'd like to have her introduce herself and give us a little background on how she got into cybersecurity.
Okay, so you're going to need to rein me in if I start going off on tangents.
That's okay.
Okay. When we talk about all the things to do at DEF CON and everything else, I'm going to read the abstract for the talk that I'm most excited about from Tennisha Martin, who is also the founder of BlackGirlsHack. Shout out to the homie. I call her the Cyber PMP because she has her PMP and she's in cyber.
I'm jealous.
Not that far of a jump.
Yeah.
But as far as specific things to do in Black Hat and DEF CON, I'm going to say don't get hacked and have fun. Those are my overall things. But so a little bit about me. As mentioned earlier, my name is Rebekah Skeete. Do the little shout out because I'm trying to build the brand. My Twitter handle is @Rebekah Skeete. Pretty straightforward. I also refer to myself as CyberBec because it sounds like cybersec, Anyway, I thought it was clever.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you very much. So from New York originally, which kind of lends to whenever I get excited or upset, I speak a little bit faster. And then also when I'm on route to someplace, I walk a little bit faster. I actually read an article the other day that said people who walk fast are angry or something, like they're angrier. And I don't think I'm like inherently angry. It's just when a slow person is walking in front of me. That's neither here nor there, but do with it what you will. Yep. So originally my goal was to be a lawyer, right? When I was younger, mainly, at least so I'm told, it's because I talked a lot, but whatever. I also like to advocate on other people's behalf. I feel like it's necessary for people to have a voice. And if some people feel that their voice is muted because they don't necessarily have the exact words or the opportunity to say what needs to be said, I feel obligated to say it for them. Sometimes that's appreciated and a good thing, and sometimes it's like, hey, keep it to yourself. But anyway, so that was my goal. Was a history major in college. Still, I was like going to law school. That was the plan. And then I hit a little bit of a break. It's like break on, because you say your last name is break, like in breaking car.
Yep.
Also, I hit the brakes or pumped them, and I started volunteering for campaigns, political campaigns. My first candidate, she ran for Justice of the Peace, and we lost, but we lost by a small amount, and she was a first-time candidate, so that was actually a win because it was someone who had never run before, having her campaign managed by someone who had never managed a campaign before, and we were respectable. We had a respectable showing. Um, the cool thing about that is that so how it kind of came to be was I was on the phone, and so Sandra Lee, shout out to her. She's now Constable
Mhm.
Lee. Um, her daughter was my college roommate, and I try to be a good friend, who reaches out, checks in on people every now and again. And so I was on the phone with her daughter, just checking in and seeing how everything was going. And then I heard my name in the background, and it was just like Rebekah, and I was like, okay. And so then her daughter was like, hey, my mom wants to talk to you for a little bit. And I said, okay. So she gets on the phone and says, hey, I was praying about it, and I decided I'm going to run for office, and I didn't know who should be my campaign manager, and you're it. And I was like, are you
Wow.
sure? Because I've never done this before, so I don't want to set you up for failure or anything. And her response was, well, I never ran for office before, so we can learn together. And that's kind of been, um, I guess, for a foreshadowing of all of the awesome things that I've kind of tripped and fell into in my life is
Mhm.
one, aligning myself with people who see in me sometimes what I don't see in myself. And then the being open to learning and constantly being teachable. And so the fact that she was open to me learning on the job has kind of been fantastic. So anyway, I was like, all right, well, if you put your faith in me, let's do this. So like I said, ran that first election, lost. Then ran for state rep in 2016, lost that too. But was gaining more traction, had some more experience, and then she won for city council, and now she is a constable. So it's been kind of fantastic to witness that growth, and be part of it. So anyway,
Very cool.
uh, while I was working for her campaign, I was like, well, kind of need a part-time job to keep me busy during the day and make some extra income. Because first time candidate, it's not like we were rolling in the dough or anything like that.
Right.
So looked in the paper and saw that the Texas Rangers had a job fair. So I was like, okay. Now I'm from New York, so I was familiar with baseball. I'm a Yankee fan, by birth, because like
Mhm.
I'm from the Bronx. What other option is there? So I
Right.
was like, okay. So I went to the job fair, looked at a couple positions, and I was like, oh, I could be a tour guide. I kind of like to talk sometimes. I could point to things and make people ooh and ah. And I can't remember the person's name, but they were like, well, if you're wanting to have more consistent work, you should do parking because then you'd work every single game. Whereas with the tours, it's a little bit more few and far between.
Mm.
So I was like, okay, fine. Parking it is. So got a part-time seasonal job working in the parking lot. And so now I'm in Texas, right? And it is hot as all get out here
Oh
in
yeah.
general,
Mhm.
specifically in the summer. And then in a parking lot where you're flanked by cars and the sunlight is beating up off the concrete or pavement, whatever, wasn't the ideal situation. So it's like, would go back to school, or when someone would get married or what have you, and I'd go back to where I went to college, and they'd be like, hey, so what are you doing? Oh, working campaigns and working in the parking lot. And I only say that to say that sometimes if people are so tied to what they thought they were going to do and who they thought they were going to be, sometimes they rob themselves of who they can be, or the
Mhm.
new version of what their dream can be. Anyway, so in the parking lot, seasonal, having a good time. It was just my summer job, working campaigns, getting to know people, working in the community. So that was 2009. 2010, the Rangers go to the World Series. And that, I don't know who all is a baseball fan or not, but it's a huge thing. It's a
Oh yeah.
pretty big experience. And for the fact that it was the first time they had ever gone in franchise history, it was something to behold. And I was like, you know what? I kind of like this organization. Maybe I could make this a full-time gig. And so I was wondering, like, okay, so what would that look like? What could I do being full-time here? Um, and at that point, the campaigning and everything had kind of, because it's in waves, it's in cycles, political cycles and
Sure.
everything.
Mhm.
Um, so I kind of thought about like what I would go into. So there is player relations, there's community outreach and everything. And I was like, that's more in line with what I've been doing, working with campaigns. So that's what I'll do. Again, I had to pivot because the opportunity didn't present itself for that. A position opened in the mailroom. So I applied. I was like, you know what? Mailroom makes sense. It's also kind of humbling because here it is. I graduated high school when I was 16. People expect for me to be some sort of wonderkin. And then, so what do? I work in the mailroom, and there's
Mm.
nothing wrong with that at all. But I say that to say that sometimes we have this uh, obsession, I guess, with presentation and having our name be a certain thing, having our title be a certain thing. And if you can't present what you think is success, then it's a failure. And I think that's contrary. Every success that I've ever achieved has come from a position of servitude. It has been whenever I have humbled myself and said, oh, when Mrs. Lee reached out and said, do you want to manage my campaign? That was a position of servitude for me. Yes, because I believe in you. I want to help. That opened up so many doors. I was able to go to the Women's Campaign School at Yale, which is the same place where Kate Gillibrand went. It's the same place where Giffords went, Lauren Underwood. And I got that
Mm-hmm.
opportunity because I was in a position of servitude and it presented itself to me.
Nice.
Same thing with when I was in the mailroom. It was whenever there was an opportunity to do something extra, whether I was getting paid for it or not, I volunteered.
Mm.
And it gained me favor, I suppose, in the eyes of many people who were in hiring positions. And so then worked the mailroom for a little bit. And then a couple years down the road, 2017, the VP of IT reaches out and says, hey, we're hiring and we were told you're the person to look at. And I said, well, who told you that? I'm not the most technical person. Like, I mean, I know the difference between a DVD and a Blu-ray, but that's that's about the extent of my technical prowess.
Right.
And so he said, well, it's a customer service position, and I heard that you have, stellar customer service. Now, again,
Nice.
service. When my sister opened her chiropractic clinic, I worked at her reception. I was her chiropractic assistant. It was some sort of service. Even though I've never been in IT, I have done some level of service since I started working when I was 15. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting how you can leverage different experiences and different backgrounds, and then everything will kind of line in. One thing specifically I kind of heard was a key. You see all of those notches and um, dings, or however the correct way to define those are. And while you're experiencing them, it's, I don't know what this is for. Ow, this kind of hurt. Oh, this is reshaping me. But then the moment when that key hits the lock that it was made for and things click, then it's like, okay, everything is in alignment. Now it makes sense.
Right.
And I've been blessed to have a lot of those moments.
Yep.
So, yeah, like I
Well,
told him I didn't really have a technical background, but hey, I'm a fast learner. I like to learn. So he said, perfect. You have the soft skills, which is hard to teach, and the technical skills we can teach. So I was like, all
yep.
right. So I started working the help desk. Um, Coordinator of IT customer service was my official title.
Nice.
And
Nice.
my plan of attack was whenever I saw a ticket and it was being closed, I would look at the notes. Okay, so what did you do? How did you attack this? How often do we see this? Thankfully, all of my coworkers were very good about answering questions because I had a lot of them, letting me shadow along. And then sometimes when I didn't necessarily feel comfortable enough to do something, giving me that extra goad of, no, you can do it. Go ahead. And thankfully, that was a really good training ground for me to get comfortable, kind of get my IT legs, as they were, underneath
Mm-hmm.
me. And then I found out about cyber. I don't even know what it
Mm.
was. I feel like I heard a podcast or something, and I mentioned to someone like it was like the the gateway drug or something, and it was like, oh,
Sweet.
hackable. What can be hacked? And this is that and the other. And so anyway, I was hooked. And it's just been so thrilling and interesting. And the more that I've learned, the more I learn of what I don't know, and the more
Right.
intrigued I am to learn more. One of the
Right.
things I like about IT and then cyber is that it's ever changing and evolving. And so, even though I was a noob, a little neophyte, if you will, I wasn't too far behind because things are always changing. There are so many different things that I can still get in on the ground floor on,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still a rich history that I can learn and play catch up. The other thing I
Right.
really liked about the field is everyone seemed so excited to share information. I concede to the point that, my experience isn't necessarily everyone's experience. But one thing that I can boast of my experience is that whenever I asked a question, people were excited to give me answers.
Cool.
Um, InfoSec Twitter, Black Tech Twitter, everyone has been really good about um, sharing information, hyping success, and trying to remove as many barriers to entry as possible. Granted, as it is with anything, there are always going to be people who are opposite of that,
Mm-hmm.
who are naysayers and want to bring down or what have you. But thankfully, that has been the minority. And
Right.
anyway, so that's kind of my verbose diary of the mouth background. One of the groups that I stumbled upon when I was trying to immerse myself in cybersecurity is BlackGirlsHack. And Tennisha Martin, like, my gosh, she's fantastic and an angel. And she's so committed to seeing other people succeed. And I feel like, in general, having someone who just cares about other people genuinely. I know there are often people who care because they have ulterior motives, or they're like, I want to see you succeed so that I can ride your coattails or what have you, which is good. I mean, hey, I scratch your back, you scratch mine. As long as both of our backs are scratched, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, and a person and a group that's genuinely committed to the success of others has been it's been awesome. But anyway, I'll
That's
take a
all.
breath and let you speak.
No, that's cool. I do really I appreciate hearing all the varied backgrounds. A lot of people, they just assume, well, you need to come from, being a SOC analyst, or you need to come from, being a blue teamer. You need to come from, a lawyer and doing GRC stuff to get into security. I I don't believe that there's any one place that we should come from, or we should just completely discount for these things. I mean, somebody had made mention the other day about, well, I have a degree in biology, and I want to get into, I realized that I was never going to be a research scientist, but I want to get into information security. And I was like, well, that's a great background to come from, because being a biologist, you learn how to manage large data sets, you understand how to do data analysis, you're using spreadsheets, which let's be honest, infosec runs on Excel.
Mhm.
You'll handle that. Excel is the tool of choice for many, an output of a tool in CSV format, or people are going to be using that. And for yourself, you mentioned people skills. That is, yeah, that is something that we don't get a lot of. People who want to come from sales, or they want to come from marketing and go into information security, that isn't trying to sell somebody a blinky box. Being able to communicate, I think, is something that we forget a lot about, with
Mhm.
regards to getting into infosec. It's great to pop a shell on a box, or it's great to do threat intel, but if you can't communicate to your superiors, or to a customer, or to a manager on why something is a threat, or that, you're really kind of lost. I mean, that's really the biggest piece of the triangle that you need to worry about, is being able to communicate the impact of the threats or the risks involved. Writing skills also help too, which is something I found is very helpful. If you're good at writing things like reports, or being able to do that. So I don't think there's any one definitive, or even one or two definitive backgrounds that people from security, getting into security, can come from and go, well, I'm a chef, and they're like, well, you can't be in security because you were a chef or something. I would argue that you have specific. You know how to follow orders, you know how to handle time management, you know how to, I mean, there's other ways that you can, translate your skills into something that is good for security. I just think that one, you need to figure out how to do that. So for yourself, you're an extra, I would say extrovert, maybe a little bit, but you're very communicative. You can't teach the people skills to a lot of folks in InfoSec, and folks like yourself are very valuable in that respect. And coming from help desk, everybody does a help desk stint at some time or another. I would say almost everybody. But yeah, that teaches you definitely being, what you're expecting from customers. You start getting canned responses or FAQs in your head that you're coming up with. So, learning how to deal with people who, at 4:30 have deleted a, massive report or something and can get that back. And networking, like you mentioned, is very key. Getting out there and meeting people. The recruiter reached out to you because, you're the person to know. So, I mean, getting in there and networking is another people skill that we don't teach enough folks to understand. They, something I had to learn the hard way, and I've mentioned that on the show a few times. So, yeah, I'm glad you're with us here in the InfoSec community. So yeah,
I would say I'm an extroverted introvert.
Yep.
It kind of depends on the situation. Everybody has a little bit of cyber courage, I feel like. And so one of the silver linings of the pandemic increasing virtual communication is, one, all of the conferences that were free and available online. That was fantastic. And two, I can turn my video off and be in some sweats and a t-shirt and, be exactly who I need to be in this moment, even though it might be contrary to who I might be when eyes are on me. One thing I think almost everyone has heard the quote, no man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. I think with the onset of IoT, everything is being connected, and if everything is being connected, everyone is being connected. And so I feel like that lends to the importance of diversity of thought, diversity of experience, because there are things that the person whose biomedical background will understand, and speaking to another doctor that I won't. I can understand in theory, but there's a shorthand. There's a different way that you talk to someone when you have that background, that history. Like you think about people who went to the same high school, and you'll start, you remember in Miss So-and-so's class? And it's a shorthand. All of a sudden you're saying things, the other person's saying things, and you understand, and I think that's needed because our adversaries are working together. They're doing whatever they need to do to be successful. So we should do it. One, because it's going to make us more protected and better. But then two, I feel like in a touchy-feely kind of way, that's what would make our world a better world. If we truly connect, not just, okay, virtually we're connected, or you live on my cul-de-sac, we're connected. But when we actually open our minds and our hearts and connect, I feel like it'll make for a better world.
Yep.
That's where you cue the "We Are the World" by Michael Jackson.
That's right. We are the world. Yeah. So we talked a little bit before the show here about you're attending some kind of event in Vegas with Miss Berlin called DEF CON and Black Hat. It's kind of a thing,
Yeah,
I heard it. I heard it's canceled every year. Yeah, I hear it's been canceled every year. It actually got the running joke is it gets canceled every year, but last year for reals it got canceled. But they're making a go at it this year. It is going to be a modified event where there's which is great. They're doing a virtual thing and they're doing an in-person thing, and I would hope a lot less people than expected. But so there's going to be, there's a couple of things. So there's the Blacks in Cybersecurity Village, which is going to be at DEF CON 29. I have scoured the website and I don't see a location. It may be that the DEF CON organizers have not given people the locations of these places until they get there, or the organizers know and they haven't posted it on the website yet. It's blacksincyberconf.com. And then there's the Blacks in Cybersecurity Village. So, uh, so there's quite a few talks that are going to go on. Jessica Hoffman talking about why we don't have IoT daddy. Well, security people don't have IoT because they know where the skeletons are buried in that. Keith Chapman is going to do the action plan for cyber diversity. Maurice Turner, big cleanup, tackling the remnants of systematic discrimination in the tech industry. Let's see, Stephen Pullum, the Mad Hatter, Black Cyber Exodus, the miseducation of Black Cyber. O'Shawn Marshall is going to be talking OPSEC of protesting, and Nico Smith. I actually had him at our very first InfoSec camp out back in 2019. He's doing one called 40 Cores in a CPU, and then Tennisha is headlining the final keynote, talking about how bias and discrimination in cybersecurity will have us locked up or dead. So those are a lot of interesting and excellent talks about various facets of the industry, not just technical talks, but talking about diversity and inclusion and equality and equity. You had mentioned before we started the show that you were really looking forward to one or two talks. Was there any of them that you're looking forward to?
Yes. So I'm excited about Black Hat and DEF CON in general. The time is referred to as a hacker summer camp, and the little nerd in me is just very excited. If you would allow me, I would like to read the abstract for Tanisha's talk in my inner world voice.
Yeah.
Okay. This talk focuses on algorithmic analysis and machine learning in the healthcare and criminal justice settings. Algorithms make a lot of important decisions, including selecting candidates for particular residency in medical school, tests that identify skin cancer in patients, or determining the sentencing recommendations for people convicted of a crime. The outcome of these decisions includes impacting the number of people or people of color in certain specialties, failing to identify skin cancer in people of color and recommending longer sentences for Black people and in particular, Black men. Studies have been shown that bias in algorithms have a wide-ranging impact, especially in the areas of clinical decision support and in criminal justice. Clinical decision support is integrated into electronic health records around the world, and are used to establish things like best practices, medication guidelines, and prioritization of patients. The idea behind clinical decision support is that the algorithms are used based on aggregated data to help healthcare providers provide a standard of care. The reality, however, is that there is a thin line between the algorithms acting as the basis for the recommendations and them acting autonomously. The aggregation of data and the formulation of algorithms by a largely homogeneous population results in bias and discrimination against people of color. In criminal justice, the racial impact of predictive policing is that Black people serve longer times in jail. In healthcare, the impact of algorithmic bias results in poorer health outcomes and failure to diagnose and treat patients of color. The result is that bias and discrimination in artificial intelligence will have members of the Black community incarcerated or dead. Dun, dun, dun. There were a couple of tongue twisters in there, but doesn't that sound awesome?
It sounds like a great talk. And
I mean, like the idea of it isn't awesome. That part sucks. Like, I don't want to be incarcerated or dead, but the talk sounds interesting.
Yeah. This is not just in cybersecurity or in healthcare, but well, I mean, it actually is in healthcare, but I had seen a story on Market Watch talking about the NFL players calling for an end to an algorithm that assumes Black men have lower cognitive abilities. I've also seen, and I was watching New Amsterdam, which I don't normally pay attention to, but there was an episode where somebody who was going in for a procedure, there was an expected outcome, and it had something to do with the type of birth that occurred, but they had found out that the algorithm was weighted because of a specific outcome based on race, which is something they were either trying to get rid of on the show, or it's real and it's still out there and it's being used and they're trying to get rid of it. But yeah, I mean, algorithms, definitely, I would say, because they're built based on biases or on discriminative practices, or maybe data that was decided on back in the day and not really based in fact, you get those biases. They either they creep in, or they they're just passed along as fact, and then you find out that that's not the case. Kind of like the story. I was told that my great grandmother was a full-blooded Native American from the Cherokee tribe, and my wife had the same story she was told. And then we did 23andMe and found out, yeah, we're white. We're straight white from Northwest Europe. There's less than 1% Native American or First Nations.
Not a drip or a drop, huh?
Oh yeah, that was an interesting conversation to talk to Mama about. I was like, Mom, genetics, we aren't. Don't try. And we'd assumed that those kinds of stories, or quote unquote facts, were passed down because at the time they were trying to move the First Nations and the Native Americans onto reservations. And they were trying to say, well, if I can go and live in these places, my great grandmother, did it. If they were trying to, make it more, make it rationalized, rationalizing the need to put them on reservations. So, it's good that we can use that kind of data to also find truth in this case. So, but yeah, we need to understand these biases. I think a couple of folks got fired from Google because some of the algorithms for facial recognition technology, which is a huge deal, being misidentifying people based on race or bias and discrimination, because a lot of people who make these algorithms are not minorities, or it doesn't facial recognition software doesn't work on phones as well for some groups. So
and I'll give people the benefit of the doubt and say that some people, I think it is intentional, but if you do what right? Before I got on this call, or to start recording, we had a Zoom call with my family members and the concept was to for us to get together and talk and understand our legacy, our history, where we come from, talk about stories and things like that. As a history major, as a person who, values history, it's important because it gives things context. One of my favorite quotes is, I don't know if my professor came up with it or not, but he said it often: history doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it rhymes. And I think it's important to understand these things and to have these conversations, because there'll be something that maybe I think of because I see it every single day that you wouldn't give thought to because you have a different experience or what have you. And it might not be an intentional oversight. It's just, hey, it's just not on my mind. It's not something I considered. I was listening to a TED Talk the other day, and they were talking about, I don't know if they said the allegory of the elephant or the story of the elephant, something about the elephant. And there was a group of blind men, and they said, describe the elephant. And so one person touches the trunk and says, the elephant is like a thick snake. Okay. And then someone else touched the underbelly and was like, no, the elephant is soft. Someone else touched the leg. The elephant is like a tree trunk. Individually, they weren't wrong. They were describing what they knew, but it was on a micro level. But the benefit that we have when we come together is to have a wider view. We don't just, focus on the puzzle piece, but we see the full picture. And I think that's the importance of inclusivity. That's the importance of diversity of thought, experience, and background.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. I'm actually glad to see that. Is this the first year that the Blacks in Cyber Village has been going on at DEF CON and Black Hat, or has it happened before? Do you know?
I think so. I'm pretty sure. For Blacks in Cyber, I'm a member of BlackGirlsHack. I'm an admirer of Blacks in Cyber. I need to sign up for that as well. I'm pretty sure they started up as a meetup at DEF CON, and then it kind of blossomed from there. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is their first time with a village and speaking. So that's fantastic too.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I love the subcons that occur, that are independent of DEF CON and Black Hat. It's great that we're seeing this one. We saw the Diana Initiative also trying to work on things. There's Nauticon. I mean, there's a ton of them going on. I mean, but it's great to see the subcons and come out. That way, if you get tired of dealing with the the normal DEF CON stuff. There's always other places, other venues that you can go to get away to a more smaller, more intimate, more, I would say more purposeful. Cause at least for me, it's like, yes, there's a big, mass of people all thinking about the same thing or not thinking about the same thing. And it's good to have that little area carved out. I like to hang out in the mental health village with Miss Berlin, Hackers Health, trying to bring, exposure to mental health issues in InfoSec and cybersecurity. We tend to self-medicate sometimes to the detriment of ourselves. But I definitely love the Blacks of Cyber here and what it represents. Because yeah. So let me ask you a question. Would I be allowed to come to the Blacks in Cyber security community? I mean, I know that there's some people like with Diana Initiative, it was like, well, if I show up, I'm a white dude. And maybe there's just some places that, this needs to be a place where people who are, Black in cyber can come and talk about that without someone like myself, 40-year-old cishet white dude, coming in to, share that space. Is it a welcoming thing for everybody, or is it, hey, we're looking to just, work with Blacks in Cyber on this?
So I cannot speak for Blacks in Cyber. I'm assuming you are. For everything that I've interacted with them, I would assume that you are. But as I mentioned, I'm not a representative of Blacks in Cybersecurity. I attend their events. I hype them up. We're co-conspirators, if you will. But I couldn't authoritatively speak on their behalf. For BlackGirlsHack, I am recently the chief operating officer, so I can't speak for us.
Yeah,
I know that while we have a focus and we have a purpose to advocate for the inclusion and promotion of Black women in cybersecurity, we are not exclusive in that we would turn our back on anyone. Anyone who would like to link arms and lend their effort to the fight is welcome. So while we, like I said, we have a focus, we're trying to increase our representation in the field. All are welcome. You don't have to be Black, a woman, anything, and you can join and lend your effort to the fight.
That's cool. Yeah. I sometimes I struggle with what it means to be a good ally. And I always wonder if I'm doing enough in this respect. I was more than I was honored to be just allowed into the Slack there for BlackGirlsHack. I got introduced by Geechee Threat, which I'm glad she's on the mend. You need to follow Geechee Threat on Twitter. She's an awesome person, and she's had some medical issues, but she's out of the hospital now. I'm glad she's on the mend. But yeah, I'm glad we were able to make these connections. And I've been trying to. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and one of the things that we're trying to do is to bring more viewpoints to cybersecurity, and not everybody's experiences are the same. Not everybody was in the military, they got out, and now they're working in tailored operations or red team operations at some organization. They had to come from the GRC or the compliance folks or help desk or what have you. I try to, I've made it my mission to try to reach out to other organizations and other communities that aren't, and to try to, when I can, especially with sponsors to work with, underrepresented groups, and to try to get a different point of view there, because I think everybody's viewpoints are valuable. So I'm just glad y'all let me come into the Slack. It's very much appreciated. And I'm always trying to help out as much as I can. And, even if it's just job postings or, mentioning events that are coming up that are helpful, I hope that those are, helpful for everybody.
Agreed. And since you asked the question for yourself, I feel also, I guess, obligated or led to answer it for others who might have the same question, who might not be in the same situation. I think it would be examine your intent. When everything was going on with the Stop Asian Hate, and I wanted to participate and I wanted to help, I myself am not Asian, but what was my goal? I don't want to get into the conversation to center myself. I want to help amplify. I want to bring attention to. And so I feel like any group who is joining another group that has a primary focus, just examine what your intent is. If your goal is to partner and bring about the realization of that group's goal, then by all means, welcome. But if the goal is to get into the conversation so that you can center yourself and speak about what you want, then you might want to draw back and re-examine or reassess. You think about, like, if someone was joining Susan G. Komen, you can talk about lupus if you want to, but there's a focus for that group,
Mm-hmm.
And so if the person's desire is not to discuss or work on or bring about change or realization of the goal of the group, then it's necessary for that person to reassess what it is that they're truly intending to do.
Right. Yeah. I know that there's the impetus sometimes to come in and be like, oh, I figured out the problem. Here's what you need all to do that. And it's like, yeah, no, you can't do that. You can't do that, guy. You can't come in and just say, well, this is what I think the solution is going to be, because it's not your, I wouldn't say it's not your problem to solve, but, especially like myself, you can't come in and go, oh, here's how I can help you and whatever. And it's like, I'm not, that's not my job.
Right.
I shouldn't be doing that. But yeah. 100% on that.
To put it in IT terms, could you imagine, and I'll say help desk because I wasn't help desk, going into like the networking side of the department and say, this is what you did wrong with routing. You need to do X, Y, Z. But meanwhile, they have plenty of tickets that are open, and there's desktop issues that they haven't addressed. It's like there are more than enough things for you to do in your role for you to not step out of it and tell someone else what to do in theirs. Now, granted, when we come together and we collaborate, then we can see how your role fits my role, how our roles can work together for our department and our organization to work together holistically. But I think sometimes that's what we kind of get into the weeds of, where someone who is, I like to mix metaphors and talk parables a lot, but the chef coming out and telling the valet driver what they're doing wrong, or the valet driver going in and telling the chef, you put too much salt in this. It's like, hey, you do what you're here to do, I'll do what I'm here to do, and then we'll make sure this whole thing gets done.
Yep. So let me see. So the code, so the Blacks in Cyber Village, they have a code of conduct, which is great. They do have a link on their website for an incident. So if you're attending the conference and there's an issue, you can always contact them. If you're having an issue, they have an allyship section on there talking about that. So if you are looking to understand, here you go. So they have a pledge. So one of the things they say, I can practice my new habit to the best of my abilities. I listen, include everyone in the conversation, try my best to provide a resource, connection, or unconditional support to those who would value what I have to offer, strive to create a welcoming environment in my community and workplace, encourage and help develop those with different backgrounds in mind, and speak up when I see biased or inappropriate behavior. So that's the allyship pledge. The code of conduct is a little bit larger and longer, but definitely worth a read if you haven't seen it. And there's also ways to do reporting on their Slack and Discord. I think they have a misconduct channel for that. So it looks like a great conference. I wish I, had the vacation time to join and come and hang out. I've never actually been to Vegas in August for Hacker Summer Camp, and unfortunately, I have a perfect record. I haven't broken that record yet, but hopefully that'll happen in the near future. But what are you looking forward to other than those talks? Is there anything else? Have you I don't know, have you been to Hacker Summer Camp before? I don't know what all there is to do there. I've heard of things, but there must be other things to do. Will you take in a show, for instance?
If the timing permits me, yes. There was a lot of networking. I went the year before last, and it was just for one of the days for DEF CON. Mm-hmm. And it was more to just kind of take in the mystery of it. It's like if you grew up being a fan of any Disney show, when you get to go to Disney World for the first time, it's everything in one place. what I'm interested in is having my phone in my Faraday bag and not having anything be able to access it,
Oh
taking my
goodness.
pineapple, trying to trip someone else up. Um,
Nice.
it's just, it's kind of like just being around other like-minded people who are as geeked out and excited about the things that you're interested in. There are plenty of
Mm,
things that like we could talk about ad nauseum to each other, but the average, not to say like average, but I mean any other person in your life who's not specifically in infosec, and you kind of drone on and they're like, oh, interesting. And that's kind of it. But being in that environment of all of the, like, I mean, these are your people, like, hey,
hmm.
you care just as much as I do. Let me learn from you. Let me see new things. Um, that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about,
Nice.
I know I don't know if you heard, I think one of the big things about when Dark Trace first came out, it was catching how the fish tank, the thermometer in the fish tank was being hacked in
Hmm.
the
Yep.
uh, casino. And so things like that, being in an environment where it's like, I think that's hella cool, think of any TV show you used to watch growing up where it was some high techies, super cool thing. And it's like, hey, this is the pinnacle. This is where it happens.
That's
And
right.
so
Yep.
I'm excited about that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh,
if
also,
it,
oh,
go
sorry, go
ahead.
ahead. I remembered FuzzCon. We were talking about
Oh yeah.
smaller cons that are happening around. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so one of the things that's happening at FuzzCon is we're participating in a cyber family feud. And
Okay.
the winnings get donated to BlackGirlsHack, or at least that's who we're, playing on behalf of. So
Nice.
that's going to be pretty cool too. I've always wanted to be
Very
on Family
nice.
Feud, and then now I get to couple that with cybersecurity.
Very nice. Yeah. I know Hacker Jeopardy is going on. Lynn Tile is going to be there doing that. I do believe that there's going to be a virtual component for that. So if you are not attending in person, I believe that there's a Hacker Jeopardy virtual version. I think there are enough people that they're too risk adverse right now, and I would be one of them. That they can't attend this year, but I think there's still quite a bit to do online and in the discords as well. There's a
Hacker
link in our
Jeopardy,
show
you
notes.
say?
Yeah,
The
Hacker
Hacker Jeopardy will
Jeopardy.
be in there? Okay, sweet. Because I am a
Yeah.
fan.
Okay, so yeah, I do believe there's a Hacker Jeopardy. I don't know if whose slide is going to be going on. I would assume it does, but for those of you who don't know what Hacker Jeopardy is, it is, I would say, TVMA. If it was on TV, it's definitely TVMA. Definitely after hours stuff. So if you've got kids going to Vegas with you, put them to bed before you go to Hacker Jeopardy. But Lynn Tile and them do a good job with that. FuzzCon looks like it's happening August 5th. And you can register for that one still, it looks like. Also looks like the Blacks and Cyber is going to have a CTF. Are the Black Girls Hack going to be having a CTF team for that?
I know anytime there's a CTF, Tennisha participates. So I would
Mhm.
assume the bets are pretty high. I also think if I were to by somehow be able to participate in the Hacker Jeopardy, I would do the whole thing in a Sean Connery voice.
Yes. Yes,
Gosh,
very good.
indeed.
Yes. Yes.
I'm waiting to be
Um,
impressed. Sorry, I'm done.
things in here don't react well to bullets. Yeah. Um, that's all I got. That's all I got. So yeah, Black Girls Hack, the Slack, there's a lot of CTF events on there. I know Tanisha does Fridays, I believe there's stuff online.
Friday
Let me
Night
see.
Labs, yeah.
Friday Night Labs, yeah. Where there was a shell code lab, looks like was happening.
hmm
But yeah, there's
We have
definitely a
study
CTF
groups.
event. Study groups, yep, for
Mhm.
CISP as well. That was good. I keep reminding them that our podcast does count for CISP credits if they are interested in getting those.
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. All right. Is there any other things on the Black Girl Hack Slack that I haven't done? There's job board, which I've definitely added some things on the job board. Let's
The
see.
one thing that's so we have study groups for Security Plus, for
Mhm.
CEH. I know I've seen something in there for the EJPT.
Mhm.
There are plenty of different things that are going on. So if there's anything that you're interested in, um, you have a support group. And if
Very cool.
if something doesn't already exist, we will create it for you. We're open to input and feedback, or if there's a specialty that you have and it's something that you want to teach to others, we're open to that as well.
Nice.
One of the cool things that I think isn't necessarily a course or a program offered is the support. What I really like, especially this week recently, I feel like there must have been something in the water, but everybody, it seemed like, was posting, hey, I just passed my Security Plus. Hey, I just got this
Yeah.
certification. Hey, and it was one after another. And that's fantastic because it's inspiring. It
Right.
kind of encourages you to keep going and do what you need to do. There was in one of our channels, I don't remember which one it was, but one of our members had mentioned that for work, they did a lot of work with Microsoft and everything else. And they saw that there was a certification for things like security fundamentals and identity management or something like that. And they're like, hey, there's a course. This is the link to it. Since I do this on a daily basis, I figured, hey, I can go ahead and get certified. And so knocked it out and did it, and I passed. And so when she posted it, I was like, you know what? I kind of work at Microsoft too. Maybe I can do this. And I did. And I passed and I got Microsoft certified. And so that kind of thing, it's a iron sharpeneth iron, in this day and age, we're living in a pandemic and there's negative things that are contagious, but there are positive things that are contagious too. Yep. And being surrounded by people who just want the best and who are investing in themselves, it encourages you to invest in yourself as well. So if you're in need of a tribe and you just want to be encouraged, I think it's an awesome group to join. One of the first things that Tennisha had said whenever I first joined was we had a one-on-one Zoom, and she was like, hey, what are your plans? What do you want to do? And how can we best help you? And that's awesome. One, because it forced me to think about, like, what are my plans? Like, yeah, I want to be successful. I want to do things, but what does that mean? What does that look like? What road does that take? And it's awesome because they help narrow the path in a good way. The road is wide. You can go wherever you want, but it helps giving that focus and that laser vision. So that's a benefit there. We also have vouchers for discounted costs. Just started this thing, BGH Cares. So we are mindful of different needs that some of our members might have and supplementing that. I think it was what do they say? A love child? That sounds bad. Labor of love. That's it. Labor of love.
There you go.
Of one of our board members. And so that's awesome. And then we have people like you who share, job postings and everything else. And it's like, there have been a couple jobs where I might not have necessarily applied, but I look at it and I see what's required so that I can make sure that I'm staying competitive. So that's a value too. And anyway, I'm very much I don't know, talking about it makes me happy. It gasses me up because I genuinely care about people, and I genuinely care about people achieving their goals, achieving their dreams, and making this world a better place. And it's so encouraging and reaffirming to be surrounded by other people who feel the same. So,
yeah, I love that. Yeah. I have 2 Slacks on my personal computer. I have 3 at work. I have my own, but BlackGirlsHack is one that I constantly go to because there's a lot of cool people and interesting things. The World Domination, I like to check out the World Domination channel every once in a while, where people are talking about their plans to make it happen and see, visualize their goals and everything. So it's really nice to see the people come in and get fired up and talking about what they want to do and how they want to do it. Also, BlackGirlsHack is part of a 501c3, so they're a nonprofit, kind of like the InfoSec Education Foundation is. If you work for Microsoft or you work for a big company that does corporate matching, something to think about when you're given money. You can always tell your company that you donated money to BlackGirlsHack, which is a 501c3. And if they do company matching, the company will also give them money. So that's something to always think about if somebody is interested in giving donations or helping out with that. I'm assuming the monies that y'all have go to those certificates or go to getting the deals from those other organizations. how do you enter into partnerships for things like that? Is it just, hey, we want to do this, and what can you do? Because I'm assuming there's some sort of sales or some kind of pitch there. How does that work for those kinds of
So,
opportunities?
again, I feel like this podcast is basically going to be a Tennisha Martin hype session because she's fantastic. But she kind of has been really good about getting those strategic partnerships in that it's mutually beneficial. It's
Mhm.
organizations that are wanting to hire talent and who, need skilled people. And so we're like, hey, here's an opportunity to see these people who are directly benefiting and being skilled up and are available to fill these positions. Um, and then with us becoming a 501c3, that kind of opens things up as far as, some people are limited as to who they can work with depending on what their designation, I guess. I think that's the word is. So she's been really good about reaching out. So one of the things that was needed or was part of with the plan for us getting our 501c3 was finalizing the business plan. And in the business plan, it has our operations plan, our impact plan, different factors that say, this is who we are, this is what we're doing, this is what our goals are, and everything else. So that whenever those meetings are had with these organizations that like Range Force or any of the other groups that have worked with us, that they can
Mhm.
see, hey, this is what this group is about, this is what they're trying to do. And then they can, link arms and say, hey, we're on board with that mission. How can we lend our efforts? And so thankfully, so far, that's been fantastic. We've partnered with quite a few people. So like I said, Blacks in cybersecurity, they're a sister, brother, sibling organization, I guess would be good. Well, they're one of the groups that have partnered with us. Minorities in Cybersecurity has partnered with us. And so other groups who have kind of linked arms and said, we're like-minded and let's do what we can to make sure that
Nice.
we can remove those barriers and, again, increase diversity in cybersecurity.
Cool. Okay. Let me see. Is there anything else? I know we went. We've
Over the
done
mountain and through the woods.
yeah, we've done quite a bit.
Yeah.
So how would people get on to the Black Girls Hack Slack? Is there an invite link, or is there some kind of page where somebody could go and go into that?
Yes. So we
Sorry,
have a
I
couple
didn't
different
mean to put
things.
y'all on the spot.
I know, right? I was like, quick, click. I don't know if you could hear my mouse clicking in the background. I was like, I'm sure there's a link because I clicked it. First step, I would advise anyone if they're trying to connect with Black Girls Hack is to go to the website, blackgirlshack.org, which you mentioned will be in the show notes as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's information there as far as who our leadership is, opportunities to donate, because cash rules everything around me. Cream.
Mm-hmm.
We use the money productively to further help others. And we also have a Twitter. Let me pull that up. Shame on my part that I didn't already have it ready to go. Um, at Black Girls Hack, duh.
And
That's
Black
pretty
Girls Hack.
straightforward. And we're also on LinkedIn. So you can reach out to us in any of those mediums, and we'll be pretty quick to follow up with you and get you connected accordingly.
Cool. Very
Oh, we also have
nice.
an
Okay.
Instagram too. IG for the young folks. Or I
I
guess
never
I
learned
guess
how to
the
use
young
that.
folks don't
Yeah.
say IG anymore. So I'm dating myself by saying IG. The gram? No, whatever.
The
That thing.
yeah. Hit me up on my Insta. I have all of 2 followers, and I think one of them is my wife. So yeah.
Insta. Yeah, cool people say Insta too. Good job.
I I I think I signed up for it like 3 years ago and then never used it
Mhm.
because I'm like, so too many social medias. I don't, yeah.
One
Um,
of the other things that Black Girls Hack does is bring a hacker to work day.
oh yeah.
And we had one today. Jasmine, can't remember her last name right now. I'll find it while I'm speaking. But
Oh, it
she
was the fluffy 007, right? Fluffy
Yes, yes,
double O
yes.
seven. Yeah.
She one quote that I tweeted out today that I thought was fantastic was she said, "Your network determines your net worth." And sometimes it's those simple things that just like kick you, and you're like, "Oh, well, look at that." And it was just kind of like opening yourself up to new opportunities. Go to different events, put your name out there. She mentioned how. She's like, if someone is hiring and you have all of the same qualifications, person A as person B. And the only difference is that the um, hiring manager knows person A, then person A might be more likely to get the job. So it's
Oh yeah.
good to make sure that you network and let people know who you are. Jasmine Jackson, that's her name. And then you were right, you had her Twitter handle. But yeah, anyway, it was really good. And she was kind of talking too about how she attended an event and was just speaking on something that she was passionate about. She volunteered and was speaking about it. And then I think it was a dean or something for a university heard her and said,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, you're awesome. Do you want to be an adjunct professor?" And I was like, wow. Sometimes,
Nice.
and it kind of reinforced the idea of showing up. You might not
Right.
always know everything. Even though I'm talking a whole lot, I still felt nervous before I signed into this podcast because it's like, what if I leave some dead silence? What if I'm not exactly interesting? We all have these what ifs and we question ourselves, but the thing is to
Oh
not
yeah.
get in your own way. You mentioned the Diana initiative earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I volunteered this year as a community manager, and
Nice.
so I was just there was the time that I was slotted to work because I was working for the Career Village. I was still at work, and
Oh.
I thought I'd be done by then. Um, but things went longer, and so it was taking a little bit longer. So I was like, okay, well, let me just go ahead and put in the chat, hey, can someone take my shift because this project that I'm working on is taking longer. I thought I'd be done by now, and I'm not. Um, but it was like 15 minutes till my shift. And I was like, let me not shirk that responsibility. I'd feel horrible.
Right.
So I had to do a little bit of, plates spinning on what are those little things the plates spin on? But anyway, they were spinning in the air and
Mm-hmm.
also juggling the bowling pins. But I'm glad I joined because one, I was able to do what it was that I committed to doing. And then two, um, I had gotten a couple of mock interviews and resume reviews scheduled, but then there was a kind of lull in that activity because it was towards the end of the day and no one else was signing up for time. So I could kind of just participate in the event. And one of the speakers was talking about how whenever they have events, it's harder, or not necessarily harder, but they had to put more effort into making sure that they had a diverse panel
Mm.
because the resources, I mean, it would be easy to get a white male because there's a lot of them. And so she was
Mm-hmm.
like, so it's not that I'm trying to exclude anyone. It's just, hey, I'm grabbing from the pool that's available. So I put in the chat, hey, Black Girls Hack is a good resource if you need something, if you want to pull for some
Nice.
people. And so then Carlotta, who was main um, on the stage, said, "Oh, Rebekah, turn your camera on and talk to us about Black Girls Hack." And I was like, no, I'm just here to help, and I'm, in the background or what have you. But she was like, no, let's, have a conversation or whatever. And so then again, that kind of circles back to being in the room, being of service, and sometimes things presents itself just because you're in the
Right.
right place at the right time. Um, and with the right motive, because my motive was to help and was to be an answer. And oftentimes, just by being an answer, everybody has problems, everybody has solutions. So by being an answer, you become a sought out person because plenty of people have questions, plenty of people have problems. And if you're an answer, then you're an asset.
Right. Right. Yeah. I think that's important to, especially in service. Um, a lot of people don't realize that security infosec is a service based industry. No matter how they like to, dress it up, you're still doing work for somebody or something, and you have customers. Everybody is a customer to you, whether it be a pen test or SOC analyst, looking at threats or whatever. And what you're doing is excellent there. It's, you're being in service to lend awareness, and works towards communication, and it plays definitely your strengths, which is awesome. So it's amazing the work that is being done by so many others. I sometimes feel like I'm not doing enough with just the podcast and stuff, but I do what I can to try to get a leg up for folks or help make introductions. And sometimes like yourself, you make a huge impact by doing that, and you should be applauded for doing so. So that's excellent.
Thank you.
Good for
also,
you. Yeah.
don't minimize your contribution. Because you think of a grenade, that little pin, it's pretty important.
Sometimes I feel like my hand is clasped around the grenade, not not throwing it somewhere else. But cool. Yeah. So we've talked for an hour. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And we haven't even
feel like
gotten
I
to
talked for
social
45 minutes. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I'm one who, if you've ever listened to this show, I don't like dead air either. So I will try to fill that up with nervousness and rambling and kind of like what I'm doing now. Anyway,
mine's go-to are dad jokes.
Dad. Oh no! Now I have to hear the dad joke,
and then I have to do it in like a stagey kind of voice. So it's like, hey, how do you find Will Smith in the snow?
Oh no! How do you find Will Smith in the snow?
You check for Fresh Prince, but
oh wow!
Delivery on that, I think, was pretty good.
That's excellent.
Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Emily Harris, who I stole this joke from. Are you ready?
Okay. All right.
What kind of animal would Mayo be and why?
What kind of animal would Mayo be and why? I don't know.
A horse, because Mayo neighs.
Oh man, I love me some puns. I love some word puns, and that one, that's definitely a dad joke. Well done.
That was a gem. Thank you.
That's a good one. Much. Yeah, I do like that.
I keep a little repository for moments such as these.
There's nothing wrong with them. I won't lie. But of course, I'm a dad, so it is what it is. So, that was our show for this week. You can find show notes for this and all of our shows at www.breakingsecurity.com. You can also find an RSS link on the site to add to your favorite podcatcher. You can find all of us on Twitter. Miss Berlin can be found at InfoSyster, INFOSYSTIR. Mr. Betcher can be found at BetcherPwned, BOETTCHERPWNED. And you can follow me on Twitter at Brian Brake, BRYANBRAKE. We have a Slack. Come join us on our Slack. A lot of great things going on there. A lot of channels of various InfoSec-related subjects. You can get an invite on Twitter by emailing our official Twitter handle for the show at BrakeSec, BRAKESEC, or you can email us at bds.podcast@gmail.com. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters for their monetary assistance by offsetting costs involved in putting out a weekly show. Zoom fees, Libsyn hosting, domain purchase, renewal, equipment upgrades, time and effort building the community we have. We appreciate all of your help and support. If you'd like a t-shirt, stickers, coffee mug, or just to show your support for the show, you can check out our TPub site, www.tpublic.com/user/BDS podcast. We thrive on your feedback. A quick 5-star comment on iTunes or Google Play Store or your favorite streaming service, Spotify, Pandora, what have you, go a long way to gaining us additional visibility. It takes no time at all, and we appreciate your help in spreading the word. That was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Be safe, be well, be kind to one another, take care of yourself because you're the only you have, and we'll talk to you again soon.